Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Okay.
So, I don't know, today's class is trying to get everybody to have a consciousness and awareness about, what our comfort zone is. And I think we all have things that we avoid doing because they're not natural to us. They make us a little bit uncomfortable. So I want to highlight, and I want everybody to have not just an awareness of it. And David, I see you drinking your morning coffee. David Haller, how are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you guys? What's up, Rob?
We're doing great. You're a pretty talented guy. What's your weakness? What's your discomfort zone that you can maybe have a breakthrough if you addressed it?
Well, I would say I used to have some more weaknesses. They would include organization, time management, but I've spent a lot of time working on my weaknesses and figuring out who to bring around me to get better at those. I'm definitely in your face, the networker, hosting clients, but I think that, my weakness was definitely like starting off in the business would be like contracts and, getting back to the office and doing everything back of the house. But I think you just figure out what you're not good at, focus on your strengths, and, it all comes together. And you should just get better every day. Whatever you're not good at, just work on a little bit at a time and it'll all come together.
How many calls or how many outreaches do you do a day? Like not just responsive, but outbound outreaches.
I made like 65 calls yesterday. Past clients, referral partners. I talked to 3 different lenders, talked to some new Remax agents that just came on to the brand in different markets. Couple, I think I spoke to like maybe 3 financial advisors, getting refreshers for all of the buyers that we're working with, what the numbers are, looking at everything that's happened in the market, and just trying to, better myself every day, push forward a little bit and add some more value to the conversations I'm about to have.
You know somebody named Nimesh Patel, right?
I know him very well. He just sent me a t-shirt.
That was pretty cool.
Actually,
That
I was
pretty
actually
cool.
so I was actually on a boat in Tennessee with a couple of my referral partners, one from Jackson, whose daughter just got married, and my dear friend Lisa from Olympia, Washington. I'm on a boat and I get a message from Fazia. Oh, you got a package. It just arrived to the Delray office. And I said, well, I'm in Tennessee. What's up? She goes, I'm a little jealous. Nimesh just sent you a present. And I said, what is this? She goes, he custom made a shirt for you. I said, yeah, it's a relationship I made a couple of years ago at R4.
Pretty cool. So you make 65 calls in a day. I picked on the wrong person to identify the weakness. Are you using KV Core?
I am using KV Core. I used to use Boomtown. I've used Sync. I used Sync for a very, very long time, especially when I was running a brokerage in Delray with my brother. It was very helpful, I found, but everybody's been going over to KV Core.
Cool. So you've had a breakthrough. You're kind of maybe an example of the other side where you've gotten to the discipline of making those calls. Have you sent anything out like Nimesh recently?
So yeah, very strategically, we send out things that are specific. So some people send out, I just got yesterday in my mailbox something from a Charlotte referral partner and from a client from Miami that's like very generic. I think if you can pick a very specific, very strategic thing that works for each person, that makes them feel like you thought of them, very, very carefully, it's going to stand out and they're never going to forget, you and your market. Last night, I was noticing a couple other people referred in a post I was tagged in, And I realized, I'm still one of the 2 or 3 that were constantly put down on that post. And you can't worry about what people are doing behind your back, or what people are doing. Just do what works for you, and keep doing it, and double down on that. And that's what I try to tell people all the time.
I have a great piece to add to that. As far as finding something relevant, I haven't started it yet, and more than happy to share the idea with anybody who wants to try it. But my intention is to go to the public libraries of the counties that I have sold in, as well as the county, look at their calendars, dates for the farmers market, all basic accessible information, and put it into a newsletter and send it to my clients that are in that county. So you create one for each different county, you send them out quarterly, you just go to the public library and the county website, find the upcoming events, and share some information with them. It's a useful reminder of, hey, I'm always looking out for you. Send it out quarterly if you can for each season. And it's a great way. The content is already there. You don't have to make anything up. You just pull it together, make a nice PDF, put your information in it, nice hello, and it's an easy way for you to come up with content. Another thing real quick, for anybody in New Jersey, tomorrow is a chemical drop-off at Keene University. Only happens 2 or 3 times a year. Excellent and easy way to throw some social media videos out there and remind your clientele and the people out there, hey, listen, don't forget, if you're thinking about selling, you want to get rid of that extra paint that's in your garage or any chemicals that you have, chemical drop-off is tomorrow. Doesn't happen often. Make sure you make it 9 to 12 or 9 to 3. Keene University, look it up. You can put a link in your comments. So the content is out there. Just use whatever is happening to make an excuse to make a video.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you chiming in there. I'm going to share the attachment I put on there because I want to get a really good visual here today. So. Too many tabs open. Here it is. So let that fix in your mind, right? Your comfort zone. And how many times have we made a conscious effort to get outside of our comfort zone? And this elusive success is not it's not a criticism or a critique, but it's a way to expand your business, right? We all have different levels of success. And one of my coaches had mentioned to me, you could have somebody that's doing, making platinum, doing over $250,000, and we can assume that they're having a successful career. And that's a mistake, because everybody's definition of success is different. And I think the universal piece is to really have a breakthrough. We need to have a conscious decision to get outside of our comfort zone and find something that we're not doing that we can make an effort to do that makes us uncomfortable. That's the, comfort zone is the circle. Everything outside the circle is the uncomfort zone, right? We don't want to say it that way, but that's really what it is. And do you ever grow when you're in your comfort zone? Robert, you've been in leadership for a long time. Do you see people grow in their comfort zone?
I think that they grow to a certain level, but if they don't get to their target of what they ultimately want out of their career.
I think if you stay in your comfort zone, you keep doing the same thing, you're pretty much going to get the same result, right?
Right.
And in order to really have a breakthrough and to expand your skill set, we all need to figure out ways to get outside our comfort zone. Traditional, discomfort zone is, making calls and talking to strangers, right? Because that might get us some rejection, and rejection might, put a block in our mind so that we avoid things that are discomforting or they don't make us feel good. If you knew everyone you talked to was going to be a pleasant conversation, would it make it easier to take whatever that action was? This is out for anybody, not just necessarily Robert, but if you knew that whatever outreach you
course.
had was going to be reached favorably, even if it wasn't a positive transaction, if everybody, hey, I appreciate the conversation, that's great. I don't know of anybody looking to, refinance. I don't even looking to buy a house. I don't even want to looking to rent. You would have more of those conversations if that was the way that you were programmed. And that's part of getting outside of your comfort zone and expanding your skill set and growing your success level. Because if you're a platinum agent and you're a platinum agent for 3 years and you're not growing, you might be comfortable there and you might say, hey, Robert or Rob, I don't want to grow my business beyond this. I have the right balance in my life, which is great. Most people, want to see their careers grow, or at least have a target for growing. If you miss your target, you're back at where you were last year. Nobody wants to regress and go backwards. Now, a lot of people are regressing and going backwards right now because the market is shrinking. So if you don't have a growth mindset, you can't even stay equal with last year. Right? And I don't know if Glenn Baker, are you on the call?
It's all a part of your goal setting too. I mean, it depends on what your goals are. If your goals are to be a platinum agent, and that's where you're going to sit for the next 5-10 years, then that's fine. It just depends on where you set your goals. If your goals are higher than that, then you'd have to come out of that comfort zone.
Ron, how is the market in Florida compared to last year? Is it the same, down a little bit, down a third? Like, what would you say? What are you saying?
It's down a little bit. I mean, it's not drastically coming down. There's still a lack of inventory here, and there's still people that don't want to make moves right now because they're stuck with these great interest rates that they got 2-3 years ago. So a lot of people just say, well, where am I going to go if I sell? I got a 2.5 or 3% interest rate on my mortgage. So we're running into that a lot, making phone calls. By the way, when we were talking to David, 65 phone calls a day is excellent. If you can accomplish that, all the agents can accomplish that, you're going to be very busy.
So
Just
I'm
to
curious.
add something,
Robert, go ahead.
I was in Maine last week and I had the occasion to talk to a couple of realtors up there. And they were telling me that generally this time of year in Maine, they might be throughout the state, 12,000 houses for sale. And he said this year they've just crossed 2,100. So weak markets, nothing to sell, is all over. It's not just, the couple of states that we're all located in, it's everywhere.
Yeah, you know what it is? Basically, it's people's need to move, not want to move. So if they need to move, people have to sell because of job transfer, being closer to the children or the grandchildren, whatever. But if they, if they want to move, a lot of the wants are not happening right now. So the people that want to move are probably, they're thinking they got that interest rate, that low interest rate. They're thinking that they want to stay put for a while to see what happens. That's what we're finding out.
I think fear is a determining factor right now. I think a lot of people do want to move right now. The insurance and taxes on top of the mortgage is a factor that's causing a lot of people to have some fear. But I'm sensing that a lot of people do want to get in the game right now. I know a lot of people who missed out from last year that I'm following up with are hoping things change. They want to see prices come down. And I'm trying to tell them that really this right now, prices are going back up. It's nationally proven. Prices over the last 3 months are starting to creep back up. We had the last 2 weeks, I went to 2 different open houses, waited online again for houses with pools, and both houses went cash over. So I think summer is going to heat up. There's just not enough inventory. So it's going to escalate the pricing again.
Exactly.
But
And,
I think he hit upon the most important thing, and that's these people's fears. So not only do we have our fears to go outside of our comfort zone, but the people have their fears. And so to me, our job really is to, okay, uncover those fears and get them to move forward with their life, right? That's really our job. And that's why Rob talks about mindsets, right? Mindsets and what our function and what our role is. So the question becomes, how do we get people over their fears to trust us to work with them to transition to the new home that they really want, if they want to move? And that's really what our role is, right? Am I wrong, Rob?
But it's got to be needs and wants. You know,
Well,
if I
right.
need to move, I need to move. You know, we're finding people that, like, we're going to be listing a house pretty next couple of weeks, where the couple are older couple, and they're in a 4-bedroom, 2-story house here in Sawgrass. So they need to move. The kids want them out because they're getting older and they can't take care of the house. But people wanting to move, like Scott was saying, some people want to move, but they're afraid to lose their interest rates, and they don't, it's not a necessary thing in their minds that they don't want to really make that move unless they have to. That's why I say needs and wants.
And that's why it's definitely a numbers game, Ron, because, you find one person that wants to but doesn't need to, and then the next person you speak to needs to. So there's people out there. There's still business to be had right now. It's just overcoming the ones that are fearful and don't want to.
We're not going to get other people out of their comfort zone. We just have to worry about getting out of our comfort zone, the prospect. You're still going to have to use, the word next to move on. You can't change everybody. I think that's keeping it on ourselves,
right. But I mean, even when the market was so robust, there were still challenges that we had, right? Nobody was, skipping all day long saying, yeah, everything was great when we didn't have any inventory to sell. Interest rates were low, and now there might be 14 offers per home listed, but back then there might have been 40. So you can see the challenges or you can see the opportunities. And I'm looking at you, Scott, because I see Scott Kaplan, you had a great story about that property that you listed, but what people don't know is all the minefields that happened along the way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the outcome of the story was you did what?
The 3.7?
You double-ended at 3.7, right?
Correct. And got the listing for the buyer.
And you got the listing from the buyer. On the surface, it looks really great, but there was a lot of drama. And did that deal almost die over like a 0.0002% expense?
Yeah, it did. It was absolutely crazy, the stubbornness of the people involved. Immovable forces. It was crazy.
Now, I would say if you were less experienced and you didn't have the mindset, that deal would have died. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And
also
even we spoke to some other brokers because I was trying to make sure, I was doing everything I could, and the advice, everything ended up being just what I knew to do and what I kept pushing through to get it done. It was so crazy what we had to go through on that deal.
And could you tell us what were the issues and how you resolved it?
So one of the issues was the insurance factor of this $3.7 million house.
Scott, can I take you back just even a second further? Because it did not sell right off the bat, right?
No.
I mean, you're missing a big point of the value proposition that you had. And if you can maybe, give a condensed version of how you even got the first offer to get the bidding going.
So I had it listed at 3.99, and I knew that appraisal wise, it was worth at least 3.5 to 3.75. But my sellers, of course, we wanted to go higher and maximize the market, which I was comfortable with. Plus I enjoyed the marketing of it. So I went about 40 days where I had one showing a week, maybe 2 showings a week. So I had like 5 showings. Nobody had made an offer. Everybody loved the property, loved the estate itself, but just didn't want to make that kind of an offer. And then I had the one person who the realtor followed up with me every week. Are you lowering the price? Are you lowering the price? I'm like, nope, we're solid, we're good. I'm still getting showings. And then I got the last week of, I guess it was week number 5, I had 2 showings that week. One of the showings was very interested. And I told them that I've got this other guy who's in the background. I think we might be getting something. So I created a small sense of urgency. I was like, we don't have it yet, but it might be coming. So that caused them to give me an offer. It was lower than I wanted. It was that particular one was 3.1. And then I had a buyer that came through and he wanted to go 2.9. And I'm like, no, it's never going to fly. 3.5 is where, I think you'd be more of a magic number. And he's like, well, no, let's go at 3. And so all of a sudden now I had 2 people that had made low offers. I told both offers, of course, that, hey, we have another offer that came through, and the sellers are, going to counter. And I ended up going from like 3 and 3.1 to 3.5 and 3.6, and then ended up pushing that with a counter offer to 3.7 and 3.85. But the 3.85 came literally 20 hours after we signed at 3.7. So
Is
within,
that all with the same buyers?
well, I used the one buyer kind of against the other. Once I knew I had one, I went back to the other and said, listen, I have an offer. This is your last opportunity if you want to get in the game. So from having one offer, I got 3 offers submitted. I went back to the first guy, I went back to the second, and then once I had the 3 offers, I told my seller I had all of them, but that they were lower, and asked for permission to immediately just go back and got them bumped up again. And then once I had them bumped up to the 3.5 and I think it was 3.5, 3.6, then we countered and got to 3.7. And like I said, 20 hours later, I even got 3.85 as my backup. My sellers were a little bit remorse that they rushed into the 3.7, but I was confident that, it was a good number and I didn't want to miss out because the other people were dragging their feet. So yeah, that's how it ended up.
So Scott, if you didn't have the right mindset, like I believe that this house would still be on the market and they might be taking it off.
If I didn't push the agents and the buyer that, there was a sense of urgency and that, they needed to jump if they wanted it, then it wouldn't have happened. Absolutely. We would have had low offers and the sellers would not have accepted.
And then and Mickey, I'll let you get back to any questions, but and then once you pulled it all together, what happened last minute? Just give a high level of that.
The roof had it had actually 8 years of life left, but it had cracked tiles. And none of the insurance companies now in South Florida want to take a roof with cracked tiles. So you have to fix that. And I told my buyers, I actually told my seller right up front before we even listed that, the roof will be a big play and making sure that we can get insurance. So I given the preempted information. But once we came down to it, they didn't want to budge. They didn't care. They didn't want to budge. They got their insurance company to use their past wind mitigation 4-point to offer a new policy. And that policy was $40-some thousand for the house.
Was it in a flood zone? I'm just curious.
Nope, no, it wasn't in a flood zone. But the buyers were really upset that they're being forced into this old insurance company with this high premium because nobody else would give them insurance without fixing the cracked tiles. And the cracked tiles ended up being less than $4,000. I ended up saying, listen, I'll pay for the cracked tiles at closing. We'll get this done. The seller still wouldn't allow the roofers to come. The seller would not sign the authorization to let them on the roof. We ended up shopping every insurance company that existed, and we found a policy for $24,000. But again, they wanted the tiles. And then long story short, we ended up getting another company that submitted it, but knew that it was going to bounce back. But we got the roofing company lined up for the day of closing. So we literally closed and the roofing company was out there setting up like for the next day and got the cracked tiles fixed. before they did the insurance companies now come out and do aerial photography after you close. And if the roof is bad, they'll drop you. And of course, that's going to cause a big problem. So we literally had to have the roofers like on deposit, ready to go right when we closed. But that went back and forth for like 2 weeks. And there were other problems too, but that insurance one over cracked tiles, which just blew my mind, that my sellers were literally adamant. They didn't care. They were not budging. The contract said that you can get insurance. They're like, so they have insurance, they can't back out.
So this whole series of transactions probably equates to more money than you made last year, right?
What was that? The series what?
I said the listing, the listing of the house and the buy and the sell of the big one probably was more than you made last year or on par.
Not more than I made not last year, no, but it was a good amount.
Okay.
It was a definite, happy closing, my best closing of my career.
And I think the significance of it, Scott, was that you played offense, right? And you weren't like in the fetal position waiting. I see agents that have that same set of facts that are just like saying, Bruce, this deal's gonna die. I knew it was too good to be true. And they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I just think that this here exemplifies playing offense, getting out of your comfort zone, breaking through the fear zone and going into the growth, which is being creative, right? You maybe you didn't have to pay the 4,000, but that was a cheap insurance policy on your commission, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, just, to keep a positive outlook for everybody, this all came about because I got a Remax buyer lead off of back Lead Street. So I got a buyer lead to go look at a house, and the buyers ended up having this listing. And that's how it all started, was just from answering the phone from a Remax lead.
I'm going to mute everybody and then you can unmute yourself, Scott.
Okay.
So anyway, on paper, it looks like, a dream, but it was really a rough road, and you really needed to dig into your experience and your intuition to get that transaction closed. And I think a lot more transactions are actually like that, even more so in this environment. And I really want to say, I just thought intuitively it was like going to be like a really simple, happy story, but the details matter. And, I'm really proud of what you did. And, I'm so impressed that I'm glad that you shared that with everybody, because it's not what happens along the way. It's where do you land?
Yeah.
Okay. And another colleague in your office, Jeff, was telling me a story of a high-end deal where, I believe it was just signed yesterday, and, it was almost killed, and it was a dogfight to get the deal put together. And I think we're seeing more of that, and we should have the expectation that they're going to be rough. They're going to require our leadership in the transaction, not just in marketing, to pull these things together. Because, Scott, not only did you do an excellent job marketing, right, to get the offers and stay in touch with people, but you played the offers against each other. You came across, most of the obstacles that you can in Southeast Florida, and you figured out a way to get through them. So, congratulations and thanks for sharing. This comfort zone here is the victim zone, right? Where we like to, go and we feel safe and in control, but we're really not in control of the outcome. We're just in control of the subset of things that we do. And, if Scott never got out of his safe zone and, called the other agents and hey, I have another offer, and then, got creative with getting insurance and finding solutions, and then saying, we're going to get the roof fixed the day after closing, that most likely would not have happened. Almost certainly would not have happened. And, the first picture here, it's kind of like what we think, we need to get out of our comfort zone to expand our career. But the reality is, these are the stages of exiting our comfort zone, which is first getting into the fear, right? Because you're never going to learn until you have fear, right? You have to face your fear and learn from it. And then once you learn from your fear, that's really where you hit the exponential growth. Right. So it's not just like, hey, I hate doing cold calls. I'm going to do cold calls. You get rejected a few times, then that just reinforces the fact that you don't want to do it. You never break through the fear zone into the learning zone. Okay. And then once you pass through the learning zone is when you have the breakthroughs or the growth zone. All right. And I think that this is something that probably, we understand, but if we really break it down into steps, it really makes a lot of sense. When you go into the fear zone, you're affected by other opinions, people saying, don't call me, I'm on the do not call list, or I'm not interested, right? And, those are the times when we can either recoil and say, I'm sorry for doing that, or say, hey, I just wanted to let you know about something happening in your neighborhood, see if I could be of any help. When we call for 2 hours and we don't have any success, the next time we're scheduled to do it, we make excuses why we're not going to do it. And we lack the confidence to know that if we do it 3 times, we're going to have a positive outcome, right? In your example, Scott, you probably spent a lot of money on, marketing material, and you invested a lot of time in it. If that sale didn't happen and they withdrew that, you get paid 0, right? You lost a lot of time and you invested money for nothing.
Yeah, we definitely spent a few $1,000s in marketing on that house. Easy.
And when you signed that up, Scott, what was the commission rate?
6%, the full.
6% on a 3.9 listing. It's just, you're a great example, Scott, to share with people that you don't need the discount to earn the business.
They challenged me on it too. They wanted to go lower, and I basically told them the value of who I was and that the ultimate results for what they were looking for. I'm trying to remember how I worded it to them, but I basically had worded it that at the end of the day, when we get them the money they're looking for, they will appreciate that they had someone like me, and the commission isn't as important when they're getting more money. And we definitely proved that point to them. So.
Well,
And all you had to do was throw in $4,000 for a bunch of tile. How about that?
I ended up for the buyer having to do a little bit more, but it was a negotiation he wanted for his listing. So, but that was a more complicated one. This story has so many levels, Bruce. It was absolutely crazy. I fought tooth and nail on both sides the whole way through.
Scott, it probably, when I came into your office, it was probably a 20-minute conversation for the whole story, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I was on the edge of my seat there. I'm like, what happened next?
It was like every single step of the way, something came up that could have killed the deal. But I was determined. I was not going to lose this deal.
Yeah.
I find it interesting though with your chart, Rob, when you get through this comfort zone, the fear part, that learning zone is everything, because that's how this got resolved. Many people stop because they don't have that light brown learning zone thing. Obviously Scott knows how to deal with challenges, knows how to do it. Big part of it is why people get stuck in those first 2 is they don't have the knowledge. They don't really have specifics on how to go about that. So that's
So I will say this also, just for in case there's new agents, my very first deal that I ever did in real estate fell apart because of the inspection on an FHA buyer in the house, because the house had problems and I didn't know. And I was so upset that I lost a deal for something I didn't know. And of course it was a learning experience. That just was kind of like right out of the gate. I was determined to learn all the problems to know how to fix them. And I started with every inspection after that. I became friends with the inspector, and I went to every inspection for, I don't even know how long, until someone finally said, Scott, you'd be more productive if you don't go to inspections. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I can send somebody else on the team now. But I learned everything I could about the inspection and what could be a problem. So I knew how to overcome it before it even happened, because I saw it when I was doing the initial viewing, and I already knew it was going to be an issue. So I was already figuring out, I think of it like chess. You got to be 3 moves ahead to be ready for whatever comes up, and you got to be prepared, and you have to know what could come up. So, it's just one of those things. But my very first deal, I lost and fell apart because I didn't know. And that made me who I am, to know how to find solutions and answers to everything.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every deal that you do, every deal that everybody does has problems. There's always something. And we have to be the problem solvers. So we're the ones that need to learn and know how to do all that. That's why classes and some of the instructions that we give agents, even the seasoned agents, sometimes forget and they get caught up and then they mess up and they can't get the deal done. So it happens, but we seem to put a lot of fires out. And that's what a good agent does.
And Ron, the people that invest their Friday mornings here to come onto these calls and go onto your meetings, you get real life experiences of how people have taken their career to that next level. And, everybody on this call is better for having heard Scott's story. And Scott, thank you for sharing that. And that's something that I'm afraid could get lost in this business, because when I started out in the business, everybody was in the office and we heard what other people were doing. We saw what people were doing, and that had a huge influence on how we developed our careers. And I see you, Bruce, shaking your head, right? Because that's probably how you learned, right?
God, it's so different.
I was in the
It's
office
such a void too,
every
man,
day.
not having that go on and not having the experiences and seeing, like Mickey's asking Scott, if they were at the office, and granted he's in a different state, but all that, I miss that too immensely.
Mickey, are you still on the call?
I am.
I think I cut you
Actually-
off. I don't know if you ever got your question in.
I did. So I understood the problem was the roof, and he obviously addressed that. And I'm pretty creative in addressing any issues, and I'm dealing with one right now that Bruce was a little helpful in that. And then I had to call Section 8 also to figure out some of the things that my client would have to do, because we found some surprises we didn't anticipate. So that's not my issues. I guess fixing problems.
Flood insurance, Scott,
Yeah.
Right?
that's on this deal.
So I want to go through and just, finish this chart out, because I do think that it gives us a good visual on how that comfort zone is, without just saying you're in or you're out of your zone. Okay, when you're in the learning zone, you're dealing with challenges and problems, and probably Scott's dealt with those challenges and problems before that, and gave him the confidence to get that done. And the more that we resolve problems, we're basically building our skills, right? And as we build our skills, we build our confidence. And then doesn't that then become part of your comfort zone? Right. So in this example here, I'm not, perfect with math, but my guess is that reddish maroon circle, you probably have another 3 of those if you were to look at the, the space that it takes. Once you get into the fear and the learning zone, you've basically tripled or quadrupled your skill set. Right? It's not even doubling it, because look at the volume of the circle and then look at the volume of the larger circle area. I think that has a lot of relevance. And then,
Rob, I know you know this, but we've heard it explained. You and I both have heard it explained in seminars. It's like when you count the rings on a tree. You ever cut down a tree when you're a kid and you count how many rings each year, and every time you do something, the tree gets bigger. Every year the tree gets bigger and bigger. As you go outside your comfort zone, it's just a comfort. It ends up being this huge thing. So it's imperative to go outside, or else it'll never grow.
right. And when you add like an inch around that circle, it's not just an inch around the small circle, because on the end of that circle, it's dynamic growth. Okay.
And you build confidence, because then you could go a little beyond it. If something happens, you might pull back a little, but then you stretch beyond it. I like the visual analogy of the importance of going beyond it, because even if you go beyond it, you get rejected one day, you feel like a knucklehead, or you're discouraged, you went beyond it. That's growth right there, just going beyond it. And then, when you get the different result, it helps with that.
And sometimes though, Bruce, when you get to that point where you get that rejection and you fail, if you've gone through the learning zone, right? You just say, that's another lesson. I'm in the growth zone, right? I learned, I made a little verbal faux pas. I'm going to change it around next time, but I still have my throttle down. I'm moving forward, right? I'm not recoiling and going backwards.
I'd like to throw something in real quick.
Yeah.
Sharing all these experiences is what helps our experience grow. It helps that experience ring grow by hearing the experience of other people. Like with Scott and his issues with the tiles. I just wanted to throw in a potential solution or another workaround, which I obviously have no clue about in Florida. but an affidavit for completion where, you know, the buyer says, I guarantee that I will fix the shingles once we close. Typically something that's only reserved for veteran buyers and only in extreme situations. But I wasn't sure if that might be a potential solution down in Florida to say, hey, listen, have the sellers sign an affidavit saying that, yes, we will fix the roof. And then they're liable for fixing the roof so that they still can close. That's just something that I went through to get to a closing. And I just thought that might be another potential solution for Scott's issue that he had down in Florida. With insurance, it may not be,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
just an idea.
Yeah,
With-
in Florida, I think the insurance is in a really bad place right now, Greg, and nobody wants to be accommodative because if something happens, you know, in Florida, a storm can come in hours, right? And if those
Yeah.
tiles are cracked, nobody wants to be on the hook for that.
That's what I
And Greg,
figured.
they actually have an inspection of certain points that have to be every transaction, every mortgage, like they're not allowed to even duck it. Like there's a whole
Yeah.
inspection that has to be done. It's so different. It's frightening. Nothing like up north.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I applaud
lost-
that, like the creativity of trying that, and I think it's gonna change, you know, because it wasn't always like this, Scott, right?
No, it wasn't. But we've lost in the last 3 years, we've lost 60% of the insurance companies that used to insure in Florida. They've all backed out of Florida because of the threat of storms. Then last year, when we had the storm on the West Coast that did billions of dollars worth of damage, that caused even more to back out. And the few that are here have tightened their policies, and actually the policies have changed almost, I think, 3 times in the last 6 months. And they're just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And it's to the point now that we have less than 5 companies that we even insure in the entire state. Our prices they just went up again. Our insurance cost, I know on our house, went up $1,800.
Here's a
in
stat.
one
This is
year
a
to the
legit
next.
stat. 51 billion between 2017 and 2021, 51 billion in insurance claims. That's why everybody pulled out.
Yep. Yep. Florida is one of the highest fraud states. Besides our real claims with hurricanes and floods and everything else, Florida is one of the highest fraud states. So nobody wants to insure Florida. And unfortunately, it is just getting worse. I actually think in the next 15 to 20 years, that's going to be one of our biggest determining factors in the housing market, is that we're going to have areas because of flooding that are not insurable. It's something that's inevitable to come in the future.
So, Rob, if I can get back to your diagram here on the screen for a minute, and put forth the idea that our clients are going through the same thing that you're laying out here. And it's our responsibility and our abilities that help our clients work through the fear zone into a learning zone and ultimately into a growth zone. If we have the ability to make them aware of what lies ahead in a transaction, what the possibilities are, what the possible solutions are going to be, so that we can calm their fears. And if we can do that, we're teaching them about what the possibilities are and how we would handle them. And it's through that we get to the success stage, that growth zone. So I think that if we think about it from that standpoint too, it makes a lot more sense to us. And it's something that helps us to focus on what we need to do to get our clients to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the clients, if you were to look at it and maybe interpret it a little bit differently, Robert, like the fear zone is the clients not knowing how the transaction works. The learning zone is our experience to help them navigate through the challenges that come up. And then the growth zone for the client is the closing. It's the outcome that they're looking for, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of parallels here. I'm gonna move up to here, and I just want to read this part here. Intentionally leaving, and this is straight from Google, so this is nothing amazing here. I just Googled it, and intentionally leaving the comfort zone goes hand in hand with developing a growth mindset. While the fixed mindset keeps us trapped by fear of failure, the growth mindset expands the possible. It inspires us to learn, take healthy risk, leading to positive outcomes across life domains. Now, that is independent of this chart. These two are not on the same page. They're not connected, but they do have similar purpose and similar meaning. This just gives you the visual for that same process. And, if 10% of us can make a conscious effort on this call to exit our comfort zone, to not be affected by others' opinions, and to work through the fear zone, we're going to have major breakthroughs, and we're going to be able to serve our clients at higher levels. And it's not just a transactional level, like I demonstrated with Scott, but it's about, the way that you conduct your business. And if you're not willing to get outside of things that you're uncomfortable doing, it's going to limit our ability to grow. Okay. And then once we hit that growth zone, that's where the learning zone is where the confidence is built. Then the growth zone is where the deliverance is. That's where we deliver on what we didn't even think was possible, right? Finding new purpose, taking our old goals and crumbling them up and making bigger, broader ones because we have the confidence to do so, and realizing aspirations, like things that we didn't think were really even possible. And they might even seem a lot less possible now because of the challenges that are going on in the market.
I think one of the challenges a lot of agents face is technology. And there is technology out there, especially with our Max Center, that can actually help the agents reach their goals faster because it eliminates some of the tedious things they have to do that are done automatically for them, like embracing KV Core, embracing our marketing that's offered by Remax, where you can make your brochures and your postcards. It's already done for you. And not being able to engage in that is really holding them back from what they can achieve. They're people. So if there's a way to eliminate some of those tasks that they really don't have to do because it's already done for them, I think that's something, they need to embrace also.
I mean, when was the last time that, we got like a personal handwritten note or a thing like Nimesh did? I mean, I'm just like blown away by, he has a really unique brand. He took the time to send it out to you, David, and I'm sure that he's going to be the person who, he has his own brand and he also owns an office. He's going to get business from that.
So there's a reason why the cream rises. There's a reason why we're talking so much about this one deal of Scott's. There's a reason why everybody's tuned in here today and taking a nugget from you, from Robert, from Ron, from Scott, from me, from Bruce. What it is that most of us are not in the office anymore. So we're not getting these experiences in person. If you're not on a team and you don't have a team leader, any one of us that have been in the business 10, 15, 20 plus years has a certain level of experience and success that we're going to be able to offer, whether it's marketing or getting through these difficult markets and these moments in a deal. And I'm noticing every single file for every single client, there's an obstacle or 2 or 3 or 4 more than there was a year ago, 2 years ago. And it's so important to, I think, to be on either a team or to come into an office, or, Colleen just mentioned, there's this technology that we have. There's this Max Center. When was the last time somebody showed you what's on Max Center or went over it? If you're not in the office, or you're not going into a team office, or you're not around somebody to help you, most of us are not just going to pick up the phone and call the broker or call somebody that we think might know it. If we're not around it, we're not going to, take that in. So I think there's a lot of things going on, and writing a personal letter like he did, or that I receive or that I write, I think that's a dying trend, and everybody wants instant and send a message on the phone or the computer. And I think it's going back to the basics with that stuff.
I mean,
Rob, you mentioned a good segue might be to next week or whatever, another time would be to, your first question, which was not about growth, which kind of was like, oh, he asked this question was, what's your biggest weakness? Because at the end of the day, this is a lot easier. This circle when we're not in the way. You know, what's our biggest weakness? I mean, for me, it's I'm impatient. I could procrastinate on stuff I don't get resolved. I mean, we all have pieces of things that we need to do to, and to the point of what you said earlier, you know, if somebody's not willing to make those calls or learn or understand KV core, something Colleen talked about, it just makes it harder. So maybe getting clear on, you know, why people just don't do that shit, and why, to today's point, some people that do it, it's got to start there too.
You know, and Bruce, you know, at the level that we're at as a team leader, as a branch or a regional manager or a company owner, you know, one of the weaknesses I have is, you know, just looking at the numbers, because looking at the numbers consistently, making adjustments that are proactively, there's tremendous value in that. Okay, and sometimes
And we talk, you know, sharing it to the point of having, you know, I mean, look, people, places and things, right? So I can tell you right now, we've talked about it, the biggest mortgage company in the state of New Jersey, the ownership, and we talk all the time because we're all scratching our heads the same way. I know you and I talk about, that's how you know, that's how you learn. That's how you get that learning zone piece, because at the end of the day, things are moving quickly, and, you know, how to go about prospecting and what kind of results to expect, that's all changing every day.
right, and then sometimes you see you know, a little growth trend, right? I remember a couple months back, you know, everything was looking really good, then for another 2 or 3 weeks it kind of reversed itself, right? But we have to keep our eye on those things and figure out what can we do before, you know, agents in the company or your loan originator are having trouble paying their bills, Bruce, because, you know, we can see that train wreck coming a mile away if we're looking at the leading indicators. But sometimes, you know, we don't want to get out of our comfort zone and break our habits and look at those things, have honest conversations so that we can get into that learning zone and avoid some of that. You know,
And being overly optimistic, you know, most salespeople by nature are pretty optimistic. And, you know, I know that's hurt you and I personally in the past too. You know, sometimes just, you know, looking at the reality of something is smart, you know, when you're trying to get out of your comfort zone. You know, you could identify specific things you could do, not trying to change everything.
I mean, and you know, there's also some people in this industry that they're afraid to say that, hey, I put this deal together, because they think it's going to put the hex on it, right? I think that, you know, if you know that some things are not going to work, but you have the confidence and you just, you know, move forward, it really, you know, whatever the outcome is, if you're doing the things right, you're getting out of your comfort zone, you feel good with the result because you got out of your comfort zone, even if it didn't work. And then you go back into that learning zone, and
It's still growth. Yeah, it's still growth.
you might hit into the fear zone at times. You got to push forward back into the learning zone so you get into growth. Because if you're not moving in those areas, you're definitely going to be in a stale part of your career, right?
A
And it's
perfect
not
example is
exciting.
when you guys had all those multiple offers over the first 2 years. I have seen the industry you guys, real estate professionals, come back with techniques to deal with 40, 50 offers on a house that hadn't been around in ages. And that was all just a learning curve too. Everybody nailed that. Now there's just new stuff.
Rob, I also want to say, just relative to this whole thing, you touched on going to the office. I do have an office in Plantation, and few days a week, I try and make it a point that I'm there. When I started in the industry many years ago, it was only in the office. You know, everybody went to the office, and that was how you did more deals. Obviously, the motivation, hearing other people, doing transactions. COVID kind of changed that landscape, but I think the office is still a more productive place, and it develops a good mindset and gets, if somebody's like in a slump or not really where they want to be, you know, I would recommend go to whatever office is close to you. There are still people like myself who are there. I have an open door policy. My door is always open. I'm happy to help people. And it kind of creates a positive atmosphere when you're around fellow agents that are, you know, all trying to do the same thing.
When I went in there unannounced, I saw it. You know, you were in the office. Alexa was in the office. Jeff was in the office. Mike Eisner was in the office. Gigi was at the front desk. Mark was in the back, and I might miss a name or two of people that were in the office. There was life and activity going on there.
In the office too.
Huh?
The Vera team, Mike and
Okay.
Felicia, they were
Yep.
there.
So how many of our offices do we go to and, there's an ad in and out, but for the most part, it's empty. And, and I'm not saying that you need to be there, but I'm saying that there is a vibe when an office is flourishing and, Scott, you make a huge contribution to that, but you also get something back in return from the energy that's there. So
I think the misconception is that if you don't have an office with walk-in traffic, what's the point to go? There's so many things we do with technology on the computer that we can do from home, but I think people need to get back to the basics. A lot of the basics really start taking place in the office, like Scott just mentioned, and I definitely do better and more productive in the office. And you never know the opportunities that pop up, how you could jump up on a co-listing, or if somebody's going to be traveling and they need you to help them with showings, or, and what one deal like that starts a new relationship with another coworker. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, this brought me to this open house that brought me another listing of my own. And they're happy to see me do that deal. So I'm a big advocate on going to the office for sure. I think it's a different mindset now.
I feel that when you're in the office, there's a synergy and there's an excitement. And I've been in plantation many times where Scott has talked to different agents, giving them some helpful hints how to do something. But the success of people in the office is invigorating. It helps to move you forward. Everyone has a success story, and it drives activity.
It enhances competition.
Yeah.
I used to ring. Go ahead.
When I used to work with Colleen, when I got into her office, she was my first broker. Everybody was in the office every day, and you picked everybody's brain, you talked to everybody, and you saw the level of competition. You saw the level of success each agent had, and you wanted to accomplish that. I did, and when I saw that, and Colleen had the whip, and she made sure that we did it. So thank you, Colleen, for that.
Yeah. I used to ring a bell every time that somebody did a deal, and that would definitely, be great because the person had to tell everybody before they rang the bell about the deal and go over it and how it, closed and, what was going on through the transaction. And it's just, the more we can motivate one another, the more we are in each other's faces, the more we're going to continue to stay motivated and help our clients. So I agree.
Absolutely. And right to this, the comfort zone, everybody, or not everybody, a lot of people are comfortable working from home in the comfort zone. But if they get out and they get to the office, they're going to learn more, they're going to grow more and do more business. Like David said, I do better in the office. I focus more. When you're home, I end up walking the dog, I might have to do an errand around the house, something distracts me. When you're in the office, you're there to work, and I look at it that other jobs, you go to work, right? You have a 9 to 5, something like that. So you create a schedule, you go to the office, you treat our profession like a career and a job that the hours you put in. And when you do that, you will accomplish more. Now, don't get me wrong, I have a lot more that I need to do. There's things that I'm still working on to get out of my comfort zone right now, but don't get taken down by, the news, the fear of what's going on in the housing market. There are people who want to buy, there are people who want to sell. And if the 5 people you spoke to today don't, make another call. The next person will.
And Scott, one other thing that I want to just share about what I've learned from your business mindset is I think that you're more effective at the time that you commit because you also have periods that are committed for your travel and your vacation time. And I think if you didn't have that, I think that you would be a little bit more lethargic going through the motions because you really prioritize and value that time. Would you agree with that, or?
I would. I have a 2-week vacation planned with the kids next month. So I just got back from a 1-week vacation a week ago. So I have this month to reach my goals. So I am definitely focused to do the numbers I need to do to be able to achieve my summer goals.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely by having the vacation time plan makes me work harder when I'm here.
One thing I can definitely say about traveling, I can't remember the last time I took a trip and the first, second, or third day away, my phone is not ringing with a new listing, a new referral, a new buyer. I know Scott knows that feeling.
Yep.
You leave, like I was just at I have family with farm up in Canada. Third day I'm there, somebody said something about a story that they saw me post on Instagram, and they're like, "Oh, do you sell land? I'm going to have something for you. I see you posting about this land. I didn't know you did you move or what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm on vacation with my family." And it's just so important to remind people, like, we're not just machines. We need to take a break. We need to recharge our batteries. And the people we meet while we're traveling, it's unbelievable. I was just at an American Express lounge in Nashville, and I met an amazing broker from Toronto. Now he has a client that wants to buy in Sarasota. Or, it's just, you got to take time for yourself. You need to, think about self-care, get away and get out of your, your day-to-day norm. I was just on a call with Alex, and we're talking to a really, really big producer up in Jersey. And I heard him talk about, no, he can't come down here. He doesn't have time with his kids and his business, his team. He has 20 agents on his team. He has no time to travel. I said, you don't have time not to take a break and disconnect from all that, or you're going to burn out. So what's it all for? You got to think about that.
That's why you got to be in that growth zone. You're in that growth zone, you'll be able to take those vacations.
And I think, Scott, if you were to say, look, I really want to do better this year, I'm gonna eliminate 2 of my 6 how many trips do you take, about 6 or 8?
Christina's laughing at me a lot. I don't know. I don't count. I just go.
So let's just say it was 8. If you're gonna be a bean counter and say I'm gonna eliminate 3 of those 8 to improve productivity, I think your productivity would fall.
Like David said, every time I go away, my phone rings. There has not been one vacation that I've been on that I actually relaxed without my phone ringing, and I get business from going on vacation. So, a long time ago, and I think we talked about this, I slowed my vacations down because I was trying to do more business, and it didn't work. It really didn't. When I go on vacation, I get more business. It's almost a guarantee that my phone will ring and that somebody will need or want something. So I just figure I go with the flow. And that's one thing about our profession. We work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, but we get to do what we want to do in between working. We can schedule in our vacations. Our phone is our lifeline. And as long as we have reception, which, as you know, I'm still working on trying to have reception everywhere I go. But as long as we can make a phone call and get some internet, we can still do business.
So Scott, thank you for sharing that. And in the email I sent out, everybody should have a link to this. If you wanted to, I think this is a powerful visual to print up and put somewhere so that you're programming your mind to encourage yourself to get out of your comfort zone, and you see how it progresses. Okay. To be here and to spend the hour and have exposure here without taking action, is definitely muting your ability to do some of these things. So I encourage you to click on the link that went out with the invitation to the meeting, print it up, just let it program in your head that this is a way that you can reinforce getting out of your comfort zone and getting into that growth zone, and serving others, and in return serving yourself and your families at a higher level. Right. And a confession, I get a lot of my skills from listening to the tremendous team that's built around me. My mission is part of being a conduit to figure out what are some people doing and sharing that with others, and that puts me into that learning and growth zone, because I realize that I don't even solutions. There's so many things out there that I have yet to learn and share, that it's amazing. So I wish everybody a fantastic weekend. Everybody that didn't join, they missed out on a great session and some good stories from your peers.
Hey, Rob, can I make a
ahead.
slight suggestion?
Sure.
I think the biggest challenge we all have currently is just really inventory and getting listings. Could we have maybe a little bit more emphasis on getting listings and trying to, besides, I know door knocking, and I've been out there door knocking, I haven't been successful. So maybe there's language that we can share of what to say, what to do. I've made phone calls. I haven't had as much success in that, and I'm sure a lot of other people need help with that as well. So maybe we can spend a little more time on trying to get listings.
So I think that's a great idea. Would everybody here see value in like having a forum on our peer-to-peer where it's everybody together, taking a look at maybe why people are resisting listing their homes and what we can do to help them? I know the Rockaway office, anybody from Rockaway still on the call? I think the Rockaway office had actually made a road trip to go down to South Jersey to find home, like active adult or retirement options that are still available and affordable to people in New Jersey, so that they could sell their home in Central and North Jersey. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other ideas that we can come across if we share them. So does anybody think that would be a good idea to have a forum where we basically try to, look at what the owner's objections are? We can't change the interest rates, and we can't manufacture more inventory for them to go to. So we have a fixed set of issues that we have to deal with. I mean, will that be helpful, or will we run out in 10 minutes of ideas?
I think it'd be great. We could call it, how to get a listing clinic.
Well, I mean, I think Mickey's point is, we need to expand the listing inventory, and not look at it as being finite. And that would be the motivation of it, because if it's finite, we're just competing for the same inventory. And my mindset, and I think your question to some extent, Mickey, is how do we get people to see opportunity in selling when interest rates are higher and inventory is low? Is that correct, Mickey, or am I?
Yes, part of it. Part of that, and then what are some of the other successes of what people have in getting listings? Like I said, I've actually even gone outside my comfort zone, and I've door knocked. I went last week with Heather twice. I'm trying to get Erica to go out. I'm not getting as many people that are willing to go, and I definitely don't have a comfort going alone. So I'm better going with somebody else. But we haven't had any success. So it's really kind of,
So I'm going to find I'm going to find some language so that people can come with the right mindset to expand the marketplace by having a different conversation that everybody else is having. Not about it's not about just where you're going to move to. And this is an overwhelming issue that we have in the industry.
It's an issue across the board, whether it's New Jersey, New York, or Florida, or wherever. Everyone is experiencing the same issue. And I think sharing of ideas and successes is a very good way to help us get a picture of maybe something else we can do a little different than what we were doing.
I noticed something that, Rob, that, the decision is typically a joint decision of two spouses. And a lot of us are, if you do knock on a door or you do run into a neighbor or potential listing in the neighborhood, you speak to one, the husband or the wife, but they might not be on the same page. Like I have a couple, people in mind right now that it's not about just so much the interest rate. It's that the wife is ready to scale down from a 4-bedroom to a house to a 2-bedroom condo. But the husband's country club is down their street and they don't want to leave their comfort in their friends that are around them. And you know, the wife doesn't want to clean as much. So if you can get them together and you can get them on the same page, I think you'll start, you know, having some more success, getting another new listing. That's another open house, another option to meet another, you know, another buyer. So I think that's something to think about.
So what drives me crazy, David, is there has to be a lot of empty nesters, right? That are sitting in 5-bedroom houses that the wife probably doesn't want to clean. And they're saying, I'm staying here because I have a low interest rate, or I'm staying here because I don't know where I would move to. And you know, the fact that they're staying there because they don't know where they're going to move to creates the problem that nobody else can move to their house. So it's like this the problem is a self-fulfilling. They're not moving, so nobody else can move to theirs, and everything stalls. And I think if we can get the activity going, right? You know, if somebody's willing to do a trade up, right? And somebody else is willing to do a trade up, somebody else is willing to do a downsize, right? That's the cycle, right? So your first time home buyer buys the step up home, right? And then the step up home buys dream home. The dream home moves to Florida, moves to Sarasota specifically, right, David?
Of course.
They move to Sarasota where there is inventory, right? Where
Yep.
they're building.
Yep.
So like, these are some of the solutions that we have to, embrace, because it takes everybody to participate in, shaking up the inventory and freeing the inventory up, because right now I feel like everything's come to a grinding halt. And it reminds me, Bruce, of when the securities market freezes, right? It's like when the market's not fluid and there's no buyers, you don't know what the rate should be, right? You can't price a mortgage if there's no market. And right now there's a tremendous imbalance of buyers to sellers, so we don't really know where the market is. We need to free that up somehow. And that's the challenge for this meeting that we're going to have on Monday. The peer-to-peer is going to be a collaborative meeting of how do we free that up? And David, there's no more development in New Jersey. We ran out of land. Okay. So we have to send everybody down to Florida.
Tremendous amounts of opportunity, guys. I mean, just such a difference from the East Coast to the West Coast of Florida. I'm excited to see you in the team's event on the 14th and talk about all the opportunity that exists. I just got another 2,000 homes that are just announced and approved for construction coming up here in South Sarasota County. And I'm going to look at a new project today in Fort Myers. So, we have the inventory. We don't have the same problem a lot of other markets have. So I'd love to, see how we can work together. While we're on the call, I just got a message from Carlos Turner, and he's setting up a meeting for me with a developer in Tampa right now. That's what it's all about. Let's work together and let's help these clients.
Here's my BHAG. We charter a jet plane and we fly them down to the west coast of Florida where there's development. We take 300 people and 10% of them, 30, fall in love and buy a place. Now we have 30 new listings up in New Jersey. There's my BHAG.
Let's do it. I love 10%. 10% is a great
but I
number.
mean, like if people come, like Alex, your partner down there, like, did he just come down and fall in love with the market there, and he just like left New York?
So he's Alex, I think he's on the call and he can definitely speak for himself. But, I started FaceTiming him, showings, him and his wife. They were a little bit leery about me. And then all of a sudden we built that rapport. He came down, he moved his family. He goes up to sell. He does deals in Brooklyn and Staten Island still. But his quality of life here is so great that he continues to get more and more people to move down here. And I think that's all it is getting up there and making sure they know who to call and who to work with. And that's what I really want to leverage, being a part of this group specifically.
And David, I want to take nothing away from you and the opportunity there, because, you opened my eyes up to, it's almost like a different state, because there's so much opportunity to develop on the West Coast. But maybe even and if you have to drop off, I know we're going way, way, way over time, but even getting people from like Savannah and South Carolina and, Charlotte and getting, people to share their market so that we can share that with our potential sellers in New Jersey, and they can make it easy for where they can go to, right? Because if you're selling a house in New Jersey, and I know Bruce, Bruce Oliver, you said if you sold your house, you'd have so much money, you'd go into a hotel room, throw the money up in the air. because it's gone up so much.
Yeah,
in
but I
value.
said that to you on the phone. You made me sound like a jerk now telling everybody. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
No, but it was just an analogy, right? Because but you'd have nowhere to go,
Well, I was
right?
more teasing my wife. She said, "Where are we going to go?" I said, "Go to the bank and look at the account. Who cares where we go?" You know.
Right, but that's the problem that's there, and if people had an easy way to see, hey, what is, maybe Maria can share, what does South Carolina living look like? What does living in North Carolina look like? What is living in Savannah? What is living in the West
So-
Coast, the East Coast of Florida look like? So that the homeowners here aren't living in a vacuum, because there is a world outside of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey.
So one of the things I love about this amazing network that is Remax is I've been invited on a number of calls, different podcasts, different top producing team leaders that do these calls and talk about the different markets. I know Jennifer Kane Bullock. She's a great team lead in Wilmington, North Carolina. She does a call every week. I know she has Bernie Cobb on from Chicago coming up, and some of my best referral partners are on her call every week. I've learned about, through these agents, I've learned about the market in every major market that is, from Canada to the US down to Mexico. So if you just look, you'll find people that are doing these podcasts or doing these FaceTime lives or whatever it may be, whatever platform they use, and you'll learn about these different markets.
So there's a session for Monday. Follow the 5-5-4 plan every day. That's Angie. So that'll be our peer-to-peer. I'm excited about it. I might tap a few of your shoulders, some unique opportunities to bring out some of those opportunities to get people up in the Northeast to sell, and move down to some of our markets where they might just find it's the decision that they're like, I wish I would have done it 2 years earlier, because it's just so awesome. So thanks, everybody.
That's a great idea. I have one more thing, Bob. A couple of years ago, pre-COVID, we used to do door knocking every week with you. Is there any way possible? I mean, now it's more than ever when we could use your expertise and your, leadership in getting getting better at door knocking. So is that something that we can possibly go back to on a weekly basis?
So it wasn't every week, but I'll put out a calendar for that, and we'll go and do that. And the caveat, Mickey, is that it's not to only go door knocking with me. It's to learn from that experience, so that you would have the breakthrough from your discomfort zone and get through the learning zone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
But
definitely,
sometimes it takes more than just one time. Tour.
I totally agree, and I embrace that, and I think that's a really right. So be there,
Excellent.
be there on Monday.
Be
for the
square.
peer, or give up your right to complain about having no inventory, because we're all about solutions, not about complaining. So I'll see you all on Monday. Have a productive and awesome weekend.
You do
Great
the same.
session, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.